So you're considering getting a hair transplantation in Chicago and you're wondering what the cost is going to be. Well, I'm Dr. Vinay Rolani from Northwestern Hair, and I'm going to walk you through what you should be expecting. I'm actually going to tell you exactly how we do our pricing and what the procedure is going to cost for you. So let's get started one by one with all the factors that go into this. So the first and probably most important factor that determines the cost of a hair transplantation in Chicago are the professionals you work with. Now, these professionals may be working with you before your procedure, during your procedure, and afterwards. Are these individuals physicians, the most highly qualified, most trained people who can determine the diagnosis of your hair loss and make sure that this is the right procedure for you? Are they technicians, which means that they should only be doing technical parts of your procedure and they shouldn't be determining things related to your health or why you have hair loss and whether the procedure is recommended? Or are they salespeople, people who are really there to sell you the procedure and may or may not know anything about hair loss or how to do it? So during your consultation, think about whether you're seeing a physician or a salesperson. That physician is going to be able to tell you the correct diagnosis for your hair loss. They're going to be able to recommend whether a procedure is the right answer or whether something else better suits you. That's compared to a salesperson who is obviously a lower cost in terms of professional level and who's really there to sell you the procedure and not so much be fully trained in your full hair loss needs. Moving on to the procedure itself, you will be dealing with either a physician or a technician or a PA. Which one of those individuals do you want? Well, I'll tell you this, it really comes down to experience, because I've seen technicians that are way more trained to perform different parts of the procedure than the physicians. However, physicians are more well trained to make sure that your procedure goes well and it's progressing as planned. So it's really going to come down to the experience of an individual. If you have someone who's only have 1 to 5 years experience, the cost will be pretty low or should be pretty low. But if you have someone who has 20 plus years experience, the cost of the procedure may be higher depending on the professional. All right, number 2, the second most important factor in determining the cost of your FUE procedure is the number of grafts that you'll be getting. So the number of grafts you're gonna be getting depends on a lot of factors. It's not just the area. It also depends what area is being done. Is it the front hairline or is it the crown? It can also depend on how thick your hairs are, because the thicker hairs will cover more than a thinner hair. It can come down to hair color and how straight or curly they are. So there's a lot of variables that go into how many grafts you'll need. On our website, you can kind of get an average estimation of how many grafts you'll need per area. All right, so the third factor that's going to affect the cost of your hair restoration procedure in Chicago is going to be the cost per graft. Now, this is really going to come as a direct translation from factor number 1. The cost per graft in Chicago can go all the way down to, I think, $4 and go all the way up to about $25. Now, that's a big range, but it's going to incorporate a lot of these factors into it. The $4 graft place is going to be the newest on the market with the lowest trained professionals using the old technologies versus probably the most established practices around, best professionals, highest end technologies. So $4 to $25 a graft. At Northwestern Hair, our procedures we have 3 different procedures. The first one is priced at $7 per graft. That is a standard FUE. The same FUE you'll see at almost every other clinic in the country is $7 at Northwestern. And given the caliber of the place you're dealing with, that's actually a very good price in our opinion, and we do that on purpose. And that's because we have a couple other procedures that are more expensive but offer a little bit of an edge above the basics. Our micro FUE procedure uses vibration and suction to remove the hairs instead of a sharp blade. That makes it more healthy and more natural looking afterwards. That's $12 a graft, which is above the average price of a hair transplant graft in Chicago. But again, it's a more advanced procedure with healthier, more natural results. The third procedure we do is our long hair or discrete procedure. This is when we transfer hairs without a buzz cut. Obviously, the ability to conceal your procedure and to see your results immediately carries a premium price of $24 a graft. So that very upper range of what you'll see in Chicago, but an excellent procedure. The next thing that's going to affect the cost of your procedure are what I call additional supply and treatment costs that you'll incur. Some clinics are actually going to split off things like anesthesia and your supplies into additional $80 to $500 to $1,000 charge. because they're trying to make that graft price seem cheaper. So be a little wary of the additional charges that go into hair transplant. In our office, everything's just bundled together. The reason for that, there's no way for us to calculate the cost. You may need more medication or more supplies to your procedure. We don't think that has anything to do with you. So it's gonna be built into the per graft costs, and we just average it over time. Another thing that can affect the cost of procedure are add-on treatments, such as PRP or exosomes or whatever you may have it. A lot of clinics are out there adding on services such as PRP during your procedure and charging you an extra $1,000 to $3,000 depending on the treatment that they're providing. In my opinion, this is totally unnecessary. You should never be paying for a PRP treatment or an exosome treatment during your hair transplant unless you fulfill both of two criteria. Number one criteria is whether they're doing the PRP in an area that you're not having a hair transplant. And I'll tell you why. Because during a hair transplant, we're poking a lot of holes in your scalp. Those holes are naturally going to bring platelets to the area to release their growth factors. So you're essentially getting a free PRP session in the area we did the transplant and in the direct areas surrounding it. So if you do a PRP in that same area, it's essentially worthless. You're already getting a natural treatment. However, if you do a treatment in an area outside of it, I can see that as being reasonable as long as you fulfill criteria number two. Criteria number two is if you plan to do PRP after your hair transplantation. Remember that PRP only works if you do 3 to 4 sessions up front and you follow it up with treatments down the road for maintenance. Having one PRP during your hair transplant makes no difference. Do not pay for it. Save the money, maybe get more grafts or work with a better team. Another factor that can determine how much your hair transplantation is going to cost is something as simple as your aftercare supplies. Is your clinic charging for aftercare supplies, which can range up to $300? So moving on to the next subject, which is aftercare supplies. Remember that when your procedure is done, you're going to need supplies to help take care of your hairs. These aftercare supplies can cost upwards of $300, so you're going to want to know if they're included within your procedure costs. You're going to have to buy them afterwards. In our office, we give people all the aftercare supplies, not just because the cost savings, but because it's actually hard to find some of these supplies, to find like travel sizes of coconut oil or whatever have you. It's a lot more convenient if we just give them to you and they're all baked in. But pay attention to aftercare supplies. Sometimes you're gonna have other professionals in the room helping with your procedure. It might be an anesthesiologist. This person is giving you the local pain medication to make sure you're numb for your procedure. Your hair loss clinic may be charging additional for that professional, which can be upwards of $500. So just make sure that that's baked into the cost. Basically what you want to see is this clinic charging you anything beyond the per graft cost for any of these additional things that are actually necessary for your procedure. Let's not forget about maintenance therapies. Maintenance therapies are the treatments you're going to do after your hair loss procedure to help your hair grow, as well as to prevent any hair loss. In our office, we prescribe several maintenance therapies. We have medications, laser caps, PRP, nutritional supplements, shampoos, conditioners. The list kind of goes on. Make sure that you've budgeted for all of these. In our office, we make sure that all our hair transplant patients have easy access and the lowest cost possible on these maintenance therapies because we want to see your procedure work the best it possibly can. So take those into account for sure. Another factor is where you get your hair transplant procedure. Now, I know in this article we're only talking about Chicago in terms of pricing, specifically our clinic, but where you get your hair transplant is going to make a difference. If you're in a large city within the US, Chicago, Miami, LA, New York, expect to pay a higher price per graft for your procedure. If you're paying a lower price per graft in these areas, be very skeptical that this is more of a transplant mill. The price should be higher because real estate's higher, professionals are higher, what have you. If you're in a small town, expect that the costs are going to be lower. Now, a lot of people have heard about going to Turkey for hair transplantation or South America or to China, whatever have you. The cost of the professionals in these areas is cheaper, and you can definitely get a hair restoration procedure there for a lower cost. However, there are risks to doing this, so please do your research if you're going overseas. So one factor that you may not have considered is the type of place you're getting your hair restoration procedure. Are you dealing with a corporate, well-marketed warehouse, or are you dealing with a single physician's practice? Those larger corporate places have to pay for marketing, endorsements, salespeople, whatever have you. That is going to cause the cost of your procedure to go up. So the premium you pay may not be going towards a better professional for your procedure. It may be going to support more marketing services. At a physician's office, you might have a small and mom and pop brick and mortar place. They're running relatively efficiently and they may be able to offer you a better price. At Northwestern Hair, we kind of have both places. We're actually a small established physicians group where we can perform the procedure pretty efficiently. However, we're part of a bigger organization that performs all types of plastic surgery procedures. So there's actually no pressure on us to raise up the price of our hair procedures. We have the balance of multiple other procedures going on, which is great for pricing. So I know a lot of you want to get right down to it. You want to calculate the price of your procedure, and that's actually possible to some degree on our website. Head over to northwesternhair.com, go in the menu, select pricing. There you will see a price calculator. The first step of that is to actually determine how many grafts you have. We have a nice diagram that help you determine how many grafts tend to go in a particular area. Remember, there's a lot of factors that go into this, like the density of your hair that you want, and this may be different. Nonetheless, take that number for the graft count you get, plug it into our system. You're going to see 3 procedures with 3 different price points at Northwestern Hair. Number 1 is our normal FUE. This is the standard procedure you see across the country. It's $7 a graft, which is actually a pretty reasonable price considering what you're getting in terms of the professionals and the technologies. The second one is micro FUE. This is $12 a graft. It's using vibration and suction to move your hairs to give us a healthier, more natural appealing hair. And it's going to be priced what you should see above in the market for Chicago. And then finally, we have our discrete FUE, the long hair procedure where you don't need a buzz cut. We transfer full length hair so you can see your results right away. That's $24 a graft, and it's probably the highest in the city you'll see. So anywhere from between 7 and 24, you can calculate those prices directly online. We do offer financing through CareCredit, which is the leading lender for cosmetic procedures. So hopefully this helps calculate the price of your procedure. If you have any questions, schedule a consultation with us and we'll get right down to the exact numbers for you.